Thank you, Honourable Skhosana. Honourable Gona.
Thank you very much, Chair. It's a graveyard shift. But we're going to work. So the first one that may be, the reason I had asked Chair whether this is the entire mail is that we had the AG here for the bulk of the money. The police haven't responded to anything the AG has said. Not once has there been a response on the SCM questions. And what one would have expected is that as part of what they present to us is these are the issues, these are the contracts that we are having difficulty with, that were flagged as irregular. This is what we are doing insofar as the bid evaluation, adjudication committees. These are the people that, I had asked the question insofar as the lifestyle audits of the people in supply chain. I would have expected that it comes part of the package. So there hasn't been a response to the AG, unless if it was to be responded at some point. But I would have expected that to have been the immediate response. So I think SCM must just prepare itself to respond to the issues raised by the AG and what is being done to clean up the SCM division in the police. Because whether we want to accept it or you want to deny it, the fights that are there in the police start with tenders. They start with tenders. And if you listen to what the presentation, and if we had just ended at that point, one would have been left with the impression that all is well in the police. That all is well in the police. But we have the ad hoc committee, we've got the Madlanga, now we've got the issue of the people arresting KT, fighting with the Hawks, and what's happening? Like, there are different units in the police that are fighting one another. And that is not reflected. Unless if it's to say that this fight starts now because there's a commission. But we know, all of you know that these things have been there and there hasn't been a response to that. To say, why are we fighting? Maybe, Minister, because you are new and you've been observing from the outside, you can tell us, why are the fights happening in the police? Maybe General Masumula can reflect to say, this is what I believe the fights are about. Because they are not about protecting South Africans. If they were about protecting the South Africans, the detection rate for murder will be higher than it is. If there's one indicator, and General Masumula will remember this, that there was, when we were dealing with the annual plan, we raised the issue around the detection rate for murder, because it's just too low. So we accept that there are things that the police will not do. I was discussing with Honorable James that we've got a societal issue wherein people don't value life. Like we had 6 people murdered at Reche Park. 2 weeks back, we had 6 people being murdered in Bronkhorstspruit. This past weekend, we had so many people in the Cape Flats that are being murdered. But what society expects from the police is that those matters are investigated, they are brought to court, and the perpetrators go to jail. And this brings me to the next question around the. We arrest a lot. Shanela arrest a lot, but we release as many people as we arrest, and they don't come back. They are arrested, yes, we celebrate on Monday, and then on Tuesday they are released, and nothing is ever heard of them again. So we celebrate arrest because it's like a quick drinking Coke when you are running. It gives you a quick rush. You celebrate, but then 2 days later, you've forgotten that you have taken it. Then the last thing, and I'll come back on my second round, Chair. Maybe, and this is where the minister and the national commissioner needs to take us into their confidence in terms of whether they do meet one-on-one, whether they do have meetings, discuss the state of policing, and all the reports that are outstanding, including the organizational structure and all those issues, so that when we leave here, you don't want to leave here, Minister. Tomorrow you are appearing before the ad hoc. Then you say things at the ad hoc committee that were like, but we're with you here today. You did not say those things. Or they called the deputy minister. We are here today, we are the portfolio committee. Then tomorrow when you are at the ad hoc, we hear, hey, but minister, why didn't you say these things? Because we're together. This is the platform for you to say all these things so that when you get there tomorrow, you are like, I know, the committee is well briefed. I'll come back in the second round. Thanks.
Thank you, Honourable Ghana. Then the Honourable Shikali.
Thank you so much, Chairperson. Good afternoon to everybody again. I agree with a lot of what's been said. Irregular expenditure has risen from 2.96 billion from 2.49 billion, with 466 million added this year and none has been recovered. Which specific contracts or suppliers account for this amount, and which senior officers authorized them? Who was the final signatory? Who allowed that? Because if you are allowing contracts to be irregularly awarded and you know that the person that is receiving the contract is not has not fulfilled all its requirements, you are technically sitting with blood on your hands. So how many officials have faced consequence management for repeated audit findings and irregular expenditure? Why has the SAPS not filled the head of internal audit position for over 2 years? And why is nobody being held accountable for this lapse in governance? Because obviously that is something that needs to be done as a matter of urgency. The Audit Committee reports that only 54% of the action plans for the 2023-24 audit cycle were implemented. Why has the SAPS still not achieved full resolution of internal control and performance information deficiencies despite repeated AGSA findings? And who has been disciplined? Because it doesn't seem to me like anybody's being disciplined. Has the SAPS identified and blacklisted suppliers implicated in these irregular contracts? And have any senior officials been disciplined or charged? Why are internal audit recommendations consistently ignored? And the AG said it themselves. They said now, this morning, for 5 years we've been saying the same thing, but we are being ignored. So why are we ignoring them? Because then they're basically wasting their time to come and sit in front of us. And what steps will the National Commissioner take to enforce this compliance? Chairperson, I really am incredibly concerned when I heard that 0 of 6 targets were achieved under the forensic science labs. It's completely unacceptable. Now I know why cases of murder and GBV are closed, undetected, and we're just losing those people in a system because the forensic labs don't work. Why are maintenance contracts for critical forensic instruments allowed to expire? Because this cripples DNA processing and delays justice for the victims of murder and GBV in our country. It's completely unacceptable. There's families outside there sitting watching us. They're waiting to see what we're going to do. There's people that have been waiting for years with cases. Mia Botha, there's a whole lot of them. I can name names here today of families that are waiting, of their daughters that have been murdered, but we're waiting because there's no FSL. Our forensic labs are not working at all. And then, Chair, how many cases have been withdrawn or delayed due to missing or unscanned dockets under the ICDMS system? It is a concern. I come from the Northern Cape. There's many places that actually don't have signals. So I don't know. I really want to know what you do with those police stations. How are they supposed to scan something if they don't even have access to a network? I mean, that doesn't make sense to me at all. And then the SAPS notes delays in case finalization due to incomplete dockets and weak evidence. How many Chanela linked cases were withdrawn by the NPA or dismissed by courts? And what proportion of those withdrawals resulted from poor investigation or procedural errors? And then, Chair, my last question is, If something had to happen right now in our country, we heard of an amount of aircraft that we have in South Africa. But if we really needed those aircraft to take off now, they need to go. All of the aircrafts that the South African Police Services have, and this includes the boats that we have. How many of them will be operational now? How many will we actually be able to use at this moment? It includes the vehicles. How many of those vehicles that you say we have in our fleet will we be able to drive with now? Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Schikkerling. Then we'd like to give the opportunity to the Honourable Jones.
Thank you, Chair. I already feel pressured because I have a million questions. But anyway, National Commissioner, well done, and thank you so much on behalf of the community of Westbury for that speedy arrest. We appreciate that intervention. My questions are as follows. We've heard General Mkhwanazi say that South Africa has one scanner. That shocking revelation. What is being done, and can you take us through the process of why we actually just have one scanner? The process, also if you can explain, we've heard now in the ad hoc committee, funds just being received by donors. We see here that the process, I want to understand the process for donor funding. What verification process do you have in place? Do we know where this funds is coming from? Detective allowance, we say thank you, but I'm also just worried that now we are getting an allowance which is boosting the morale. Would this money not be better utilized towards tools? Because we find that most of these detectives, the reason why they cannot get through their caseload is because they don't have cell phones, they don't have vehicles, they don't have computers. You find that 30 detectives are sitting in one room and sharing one computer. So would that money not have been better utilized to pump in resources instead of giving an allowance? I just want to know the update on the 20 million cocaine bust, the status of that case. Has those drugs, alleged drugs, being sent to forensics? Because this is a very big case and I'd like to think that it will be prioritized. Operation Chanele, we speak about 1.3 million arrests. We don't have anything to sort of link it with in terms of no data for convictions. Can we at least have something, a report that speaks to convictions with regards to the Operation Chanele? And also, NC, you know, we don't just want to complain, but we also want to come up with some solutions as members. When you have a special operation like this, have you partnered or have you engaged with NPA to sort of prioritize all the cases that stems from Chanele so that it can be placed on the roll and so that we can have outcomes of these cases? Do you have anything in place, a partnership in place with NPA? Lockdown 3 in the Western Cape, is that still operational? And what has been the successes of Lockdown 3 and for how long will that operation be in the Western Cape? Now also something that we've heard of, we've seen these satellite police stations, and sometimes I walk into these satellite, one in Bonteheuwel, one in Randfontein, and you walk in there and there's only a desk. There's only a desk, there's no telephones, there's absolutely nothing. And you find that these buildings has been rented for over 10 and 20 years. Can we get a report of how many satellite stations we have and who are the people we are renting from? Because there are stories out there that also there's political interference there. And the reason why we keep renting these buildings, it's because it belongs to a friend of a friend. I'm sure you know where I'm getting to with that. The cybercrime, also trained. You say that we've fully trained the cybercrime unit. There's no tools also there. Training with no tools to actually execute the duty, that is a futile exercise. The same goes for the training that is 100% achieved with regards to training. There's such a low morale of these members that exits the academy because they don't even have proper uniform. They don't have proper name badges. How far are we in terms of procurement of ensuring that everyone is fully kitted out in terms of the tools of trade, that all the members that takes to the streets actually have the needed resources? The last one, Chair, vehicle status. You've also mentioned we have X amount of vehicles. When I go to the various garages in Gauteng as well as the Western Cape, the fleets are old and they are outdated. The fleets are going back. These vehicles are going back into the garage. They've almost exceeded their time. They should be scrapped. Why aren't we scrapping these vehicles? Yeah, so that's what I want to know there. And then can you give me at least one police station in the Western Cape that is fully capacitated with resources, that's functional, that is doing well? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable James. I then hand over to the Honourable Beale.
Oh, thank you, Chairperson. My first question will be: what is the intervention under? Sorry. My question would be: what interventions are underway to address a fleet shortage and a delayed maintenance? And the second question would be: how is coordination between DPCI and General Detective being strengthened? And the fourth question would be: what steps are being taken to rebuild and retain intelligence capacity? Yeah, and then the last one, yeah, I think I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, and then the Honourable Sokoto.
Thank you, Chair, and let me also take the opportunity to welcome the report. Chair, I wanted to check SEPS. How is SEPS evaluating the effectiveness of CPF and the Rural Safety Program? Is there any output on that? How is SEPS mitigating the resource gap to prevent investigative delays? Honorable James spoke about there's money being given, and I think what he raised there is that if only money is given and there is no apparatus or equipment to do the work, then it means we are still going to have a problem, because if you only give an incentive, you are then saying that you are encouraging them. Otherwise, they did have the tools of trade. It's just that they were underperforming because they were not given enough money, which is a good thing, and I think we must applaud, acknowledging the work of detectives. But like Honorable James is saying, accept that incentive in terms of the tools of trade. Is the comparison to it? What operational impact has attrition had on intelligence collections and analysis? My last question, Chair: what corrective measures were implemented following the recent high-profile security breaches? Is there any plan? Did you learn anything from it? Are you not feeling embarrassed? And if you do, how are you going to deal with it to circumvent this behavior going forward? Because where we are now, Chair, South Africans, I have lost faith in the system. So what plans is there to rejuvenate and get that back from our people to say, no, with all that has been said, we are on a correct path. The commissions, the ad hoc committees are dealing to identify rotten apples, but the system is still intact. At least if South Africans would just be assured that the system is still intact, we are moving, then we are okay. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Sokopo. If I may then hand over Minister Kachalia to you and then to coordinate response.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you to all the members of the committee. And I want to say all protocol observed. There may be some questions of detail that were put in the last round that General Rabi might want to respond to. But I think a lot of the questions raise issues that need attention and to which there aren't necessarily any specific plans in place. I thought the Auditor General's report was very precise in identifying the issues that need attention, and many of the questions that were put by the members of the committee relating to the Auditor General's report, but also raising a wide range of questions that need attention, speak to the moment that we are in, kind of issues that Member Ghana is raising. So this is my take. I think the Madlanga Commission, the ad hoc committee, and this inquiry, this meeting today of the Portfolio Committee, will raise questions pertinent questions, which speak to the moment that SAPS is in and the country is in. Is SAPS in a crisis? I think we need to give an honest and reflective answer to that question. My view is that the SAPS is a national organization. It's made up of about 180,000 members. We have over 1,000 police stations in the country. There are highly trained police officers in the service. The presentation today has been made by the country's elite corps, its generals. These are the best that we have. These are our generals. And they have made a presentation which demonstrates some important capabilities. I think the report was a candid one, which demonstrated that the service has significant capabilities to implement visible policing measures through operations in Ella 1 and 2 across the country. There have been, I think, the measures taken by the police to deal with illegal mining. There have been very significant successes there. When it comes to the audit report, there has been, I think Honorable Meshwe indicated that what we have is stagnation. So we haven't had deterioration. We haven't had significant improvement. We have had some improvement since the last audit inquiry. We now have an unqualified audit with some important issues that were raised by the Auditor General. But the Madlanga Commission and the Audit Committee is going to cast an eye on the darkness, on the problems that we face in South African policing. And it will present us with a difficult moment. I think it provides us with an opportunity to reset. Many of the issues that were raised in the committee today are precisely the right ones that will require attention going forward. So when it comes to the, so I can see my own writing, the audit outcome. Yes, the audit was unqualified, but the Auditor General specifically raised issues around irregular expenditure, which link with problems of supply chain, with procurement, irregularities, and possibly worse, some elements of procurement fraud. So the Auditor General's report, together with your questions, have given us some homework to do. One reason why there's stagnation is that it's clearly the case that the response to the last audit outcome was not adequate. So the post-audit action plan and its implementation is something I will prioritize, including filling in the vacancy in the internal audit function. And I want to say that it is not acceptable for any department to appear before a portfolio committee without having taken steps or proven that it's taken demonstrable steps to address the issues that were raised in the previous audit outcome. In no particular order, the service was given some credit justifiably for the implementation of the JCPS, the crime and prevention strategy. So what's, I haven't got the acronym quite right. But I think that's an important matter for the committee also to pay attention to in the future. Other government departments clearly have to play an important role. And one request I would make is that you work with the South African Police Service and the Ministry to address the issue of liquor outlets. Because the provincial departments have the responsibility for licensing. There's a proliferation of licensing of liquor outlets. There's clearly a connection in communities with the high levels of contact crime. This is a matter that needs attention. It speaks to the questions many of you have been raising around an all-government approach. We have to take steps around procurement. I think that the issues around the bid committees, so I say that in the presence of the National Commissioner and his team, we have to look at those bid committees. I don't know if they have to be reconstituted, but there's a problem there, and there has to be consequence management for which, where there clearly is a problem. I think the police leadership, this elite corps of generals, don't deny that fact. Now, the crisis in forensics, the fact that all the targets were not met, is part of the explanation for why the carry-through from arrest to conviction, that chain is broken. And we have to pay attention to that question. I know, Commissioner, that we are launching the KZN one at the end of this month. Am I correct? We've got the building, but we're establishing and launching the facility with all the relevant equipment and so forth at the end of this month. Am I correct, Commissioner? Can we make that commitment?
Thanks, through you, Chairperson. Yes, indeed, Minister. But however, the festive season might affect delivery of equipment.
Okay.
We'll still discuss that, Minister. Thank you.
The point though is this, one forensic laboratory isn't going to address the deficit. So going forward, as part of, there's some immediate homework you've given us. The question of forensics is definitely needs to be part of the reset, because this has been an enduring and long-term problem. Docket management, digitalization of docket management. Some steps have been taken. I'm going to make sure that I'll examine that project. We can report back to the committee about on the plans, on the action plans that need to be put in place to ensure that that project is implemented. Vehicles. What appears to have happened is that we have recruited in recent years, although if you go back to around 2010, our numbers have dropped, personnel numbers. But over the last, in recent times, the numbers of that were recruited is in the region of 10,000. But we're still losing a lot of officers. And there's now, you're increasing the numbers of personnel, but your vehicles numbers have dropped. There are other problems around the management of vehicle fleets, maintenance and so forth. You detectives clearly don't have access to sufficient vehicles. That's a matter that needs attention. Again, I raise these matters because the committee will need to hold us to account on these questions. Crime intelligence is very interesting because when I look at the audit report, they met most of the performance targets that the Auditor General referred to. But everyone knows that crime intelligence has been unstable, that there are real capacity issues there. These are long-term problems. I think in one area where post-apartheid South Africa has not succeeded is in establishing this kind of crime intelligence capabilities that are required to deal with crime effectively, particularly as crime is evolving, becoming much more organized. Simply having a large mass organization of poorly trained, poorly skilled sometimes officers without sufficient attention to building the capabilities that are required, including in detective services, is not going to cut it going forward. So it's a matter that needs attention. Firearm management. These are all issues that either the Auditor General raised or you raised. We continue to lose a large number of guns. Many of them are licensed firearms, and these firearms are finding themselves there in the hands of criminals who shoot police officers, who shoot indiscriminately in communities and so forth, which explains the high murder rate. So it's a matter that we have to get control of. I think that the police are doing their best at the moment. It's not like this matter's been ignored. There have been significant successes, but not adequate for the challenge that we have. Infrastructure. This year we built 20 police stations. I visited one police station, I can't remember the area now, but it was a fantastically well resourced police station with the most modern equipment. Met a station commissioner whose father used to be the station commissioner. Now he's taken over. Brilliant young man, well-equipped police station in a community that has been demanding a police station for a long time. But if we look at population growth, particularly urbanization, we are not meeting the infrastructure challenge. And you've heard some of the reasons today. This is not a matter in the control of the police service, and I am not here to point fingers or to absolve ourselves from blame. But the infrastructure challenges, both when it comes to police stations, but other questions about the technological capabilities that are required. For instance, cybercrime. We are not in a position today to meet that challenge. So I think that we need a technology plan for SAPS going forward, next 20 years. And that is something I'm going to pay attention to. Can't be done on an ad hoc basis. I think we need to bring in the people who understand how technology, how it's changing, AI and so forth, and the applications that are going to be required going forward. Training, it was somewhat of a revelation to hear from Honourable Member Chickling about what happens in our training facilities and the conditions under which some of our young officers are trained, not acceptable. So this is, but it goes to the capabilities that are going to be required for a new kind of policing. We think about the matter that Member James raised about, well, what is your vision? We're going to have to answer that question going forward. Corruption is a problem in police services all across the world. That's no consolation to us, but it needs to be acknowledged, and we're going to need to think about enhancing the strategies and the structures that are in place to deal with that problem, because as long as we have that problem, we can't deal with the efficiency challenges. Yes, it's true that we have one scanner. That is perhaps the kind of impactful strategic intervention that needs to be made. We have to control our ports. A lot of the drugs and other contraband coming through the ports of entry, we have one scanner. That was a matter that General, well, I won't mention the name, but in any event, brought to my attention. I think he was here on March the 5th. Now, there's the issue of border security. I can say to all of you here that the issue is, as I now understand it, that both of these are commitments of the government, fighting crime and improving border security. But the two departments, I lead one of them, are not on the same page on this matter at this point. You can help us. You have to ensure that those transversal objectives are met. You've heard also from the trade union leaders today. That's what I heard from my senior management team. And there's no way that I'm going to accept a solution which undermines the existing capacities of SAPS. But on the other hand, I said to my colleagues in the cabinet that this issue of border security has to be dealt with because we have a problem of illegal immigration in this country. We have to control our borders, and I expect senior management of SAPS working with their sister department for us to find a solution together with Treasury. So border management is something, if I could say to the committee, that these transversal issues, these are even issues that the provincial government might have to deal with them, are also issues that the portfolio committee should be considering. Now, the issues that the trade union leadership led, I thought their presentations were very helpful. There are issues around training, mental health, police killings. Those are all issues of concern. They need attention. I want to speak to one matter, the issue of grade progression in the middle ranks, talking about constables, sergeants, warrant officers. I know that this is a serious issue, and it's deeply affecting the morale of our officers. I want to go out there and bet for those police officers with your support. But I think that the committee should also confront the issue squarely. Because this of course is going to have a significant impact on the budget. Now you can't support the current fiscal framework on the one hand and simultaneously insist that this requirement has to be met to be consistent. So I think these issues of fiscal policy, the economics of economic growth, of fiscal management, and then of properly resourcing the police service going forward, and I'm talking about the next 20 years, has to be taken on board as we in this committee raise issues that are going to have impacts on budgets. But I will say to the Minister of Finance that this is a serious question. For any reset, we have to we have to rebuild the morale and confidence of those middle ranks. So, this is where I will conclude, Chairperson. What you have done is giving me the issues that I've raised, some of them are short term, some of them are longer term, is our homework. We must come back to the committee on the issues on which I've responded. But I think that many of these issues are long term. What I want to do is work towards a kind of 2040 plan, a kind of reset agenda. That conversation I've been thinking about. I have some ideas about how to get there. The observations of the committee are going to be critical. I would like the trade unions to be involved in that process. But we should recognize that this organization is not on the ground. It has significant capabilities. There are police officers doing a job across the country every day in virtually every community. But it's also an ailing organization, under stress, with many resource constraints. And what I would urge from the committee is to assist myself and the South African Police Service to identify those issues that are going to need attention in the short term and the issues that need to be incorporated into a long-term vision for SAPS. We can then ask the question, what kind of South African police service do we want in the next 20 years? Yes, it has to be reflective of the population as a whole. Yes, it has to have the capabilities that are required of a professional police service that is able to improve the safety and security of our people, and a police service that our people can trust, have the confidence that the police service has the capabilities that are required to improve safety, to reduce crime, because we're not there yet. And this is a truth, perhaps, that is part of the enduring truth of the last 30 years. We've had high levels of crime over the last 30 years. The police service does their best, many police officers, but we're not in a position yet to achieve a sustainable reduction of crime which improves the levels of safety in communities across the country. Gang violence is an example. The gang violence in the Western Cape has now evolved. It's no longer the gang violence that we experienced over the years. It's now evolved into organized crime, and the police service knows that visible policing, increased deployments is not going to be sufficient. It's part of the solution, but every day people are still being killed in Philippi, in El Dorado Park, in Reiger Park, all across the country. So we need to build the capabilities that are going to be necessary for the police service to be put in a position to win this battle. And I, for one, think that there's a lot to work with. We have built in the last 30 years in the last 3 decades, we have built in this country a national police service that doesn't fully reflect the country's, perhaps, its demographics, but it is an achievement. And I would hope that the committee can also recognize that in this difficult moment, that there are people within the police service and within the ministry that you can work with to help us take the next steps. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister, for all of your comments.
About our relationship. You can imagine the position that we found ourselves in 2 months ago.
Why does General Masemola smile when you say that?
He had his own experience. I think wounds from his recent experience. He didn't know where I stand. Now I think he does. And I would say we have a good, respectful, working relationship. I understand that this is the National Commissioner. He is the most senior police officer in the country. I respect him for the work he's doing and for his professionalism and his expertise. I expect him, and I think he does, respect where I'm coming from and the responsibility that I must shoulder. So in a difficult moment, I think we have found each other. We are working well, and I don't only mean him, I mean his entire team. And I feel pretty energized about the task ahead. I think I can work with the leadership of SAPS and the deputy ministers to achieve what I'm trying to indicate I have in mind.
Thank you, Minister. General Masemola, if I may then hand over to you for further response on the question and to coordinate it. I'm going to again allocate 30 minutes, and then when we get to 15 minutes, I will press my button again, and then everyone knows there's 15 minutes. Honourable Skosana?
So, Chair, the four follow-ups will make it after General.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, 100%. General Masemola?
Thanks very much. Thanks very much, Honourable Chair and honourable members, the Minister, GM. First, to start with the first question, Honourable Chair, as to what response do we have in the that is provided by Program 2. In each province, Honourable Chair, we do have your flying squad, your 1, which dispatches police station vans. So there are various responses depending on what is the situation, of course. Then you can have your other specialized units that can assist you, like your K9, can just respond to every complaint. It depends on what is at stake, your K9, your POP, your NIU, your Special Task Force. It will depend on the type of response. General Zulu will at some point talk to the training. We are training quite a lot of detectives. We also train those that are currently detectives on specialized courses. But as you are aware, we embarked on, since the beginning of the financial year, recruitment of extra 4,000 detectives. So they are slowly undergoing training, and we do foresee that we won't finish that 4,000 training in this financial year. It will overlap, it will go over to the outer years. So, and of course, we're going to add more numbers on that. The KZN forensic, as the minister said, it will be, the building is ready. We are already putting our equipment that we had in the province, but also, as I said, there are equipment that we have ordered outside the country. My team says They will be here by 12th of December, but I don't want to stick to that date because it's festive season time. Let's say January, towards end of January, because normally this time of the year, there's companies, they close, and it's quite a lot that happens. So, but if ever everything comes, you will see the minister obviously launching the new lab in KZN. In terms of forensic lab, you spoke about, Honorable Skosana. We did pump quite a number of, since April 1st last year to now, we put in 75 personnel. I don't say it's enough. You will always hear that. I know my people from forensic lab will say they've got, there were 2,000, now there must be 1,005. So there's a big shortage, 400 plus, that is a shortage. You'll recall a couple of years ago when the austerity measures were implemented in the public service, including the police. In the police, it was not the implementation of CARD to all directorates except forensic. It was CARD across the board, including the forensic. So none of these directorates have what they're supposed to have. The numbers have gone down. But of course, as you are aware now that I gave them posts, all what is left is for them to recruit. The end of the year is coming, and I told them that we can't reach end of the year and they haven't yet recruited. As one of the speakers earlier said, that we have people that have got forensic qualification that are at the police station. Of course, yes, they go. We employ them with their qualification. They went to, after pass out, they must go to a police station to do what you call on-the-job training. And once they finalize that after 6 months, and then they can be placed permanently wherever they're supposed to be, like in this case, forensics. It is just a matter of this directorate to finalize the recruitment. I give them posts, there is funded posts. Of course, I'm hoping somewhere, but they just have to, before the end of this year, get the home bodies there, including extra 30 for, it's actually more than 60 because it's police 30 and Public Service Act almost 28. So for the lab in KwaZulu-Natal. So the numbers are there. And of course, in terms of assisting in addressing the challenges of backlog that grows, I'm sure honorable members and chair will recall that earlier this financial year we had a problem of the lab in Pretoria where there was a leakage of roof a lot. It was closed for almost 2 weeks. Thereafter, there was a problem of water. So I did give money, more than 12 million, which I'm going to give again as that one goes down, to compensate for the time lost in the process, so that they can be able to recover the work that has been lost. But of course, yes, indeed, it's true that since Operation Chanela started, the work of the lab is quite under pressure because the exhibits that comes into the space have increased quite drastically. But there are areas, of course, that we prioritize, cases that we prioritize, like your murder cases, your GBV cases. We have a special project for that GBV, which ourselves and NPA, we make sure that those cases get processed as soon as they arrive at the lab. And we also, at our National Operational Command Center, is the only area of a directorate where we have specific people that are working there. Their job is solely to, from when the case has been reported on the system, they must trace where is the exhibit, trace it along the way. Did it arrive at the lab, yes or no? So we have a desk that is working there. For now, is working during the day, 7 to 4. But the intention is to, in the future, near future, get it to work around the clock. So those are the measures that we are doing. General Fani will talk on the infrastructure, the Denelton police station, and which Honorable Skosana did raise. Most of the outcry on maintenance, Honorable Skosana, we tried our best in terms of getting public works to give us certain powers to do some work. You must remember, even where you find us building a police station, it'll be only one of those, I think it's 240 that they devolve to us, which they say we can do something. The rest, we can't do something. And in certain instances, it's not that we don't have money. We had the capital budget at about R1 billion, and public works project, they don't complete, and we have to reprioritize. Maybe ask Treasury to say, take money, bring again next year. So we don't have the right to repair every police station that you see there. And we know the blame by the public, yourself, will always come to say SAPS is not doing 1, 2, 3. But we do not have a delegation to do everything. The department says they will do what is their mandate. In terms of vehicles, yes, the fleet is getting old. That's why the numbers are going down, and we are trying to make sure that we increase by more, even this year, especially the detective environment. We have boosted them. I think the forensics or LCRC, we boosted them with over 100 cars, and we will again before end of this year. If deliveries goes well, we will also have more vehicles in the environment and the rest of the environment. But of course, yes, we are looking to increase more there. Key performance areas, standards, we did look around some countries, and well, it is not there are various standards that are used by countries. Some countries, they do not report a crime when somebody phoned to report a crime. They first investigate it in full and only then report it after. So in South Africa, it's different. When you phone, you report a crime. We register it now, or we take statements now, we register, and then we investigate. If it was found to be false, unfortunately, it's already in. You can't take it out. So that's the difference. But yeah, other countries, their performance measures are not really, some are not more up to standard. And of course, remember, some of them don't release, even first world countries, they don't release crime stats, which we do in this case. They, instead of releasing crime stats, they give a long story of percentages and they leave you in the middle. So there are areas to benchmark, but not really the best. Honorable Ganas, you said there was no response on the AG's presentation. We thought we're going to now, as we answer, we are going to take that into consideration. And then you say there is no response on what are these fights about. Well, it's more about investigation of crime. What has been found out, what we found out, crime has been committed, and we are investigating it. And I've got no interest in any tender. I've got no business, no tender, and I delegated functions to the respective officials, which I've now, myself together with the CFO, we have reviewed the delegation of powers that not every, because tenders have been signed by the National Commissioner Supply Chain. So we said, no, we reviewed it to say certain amounts must go to the Deputy National Commissioner Support, be signed off by him or her, and from certain amount of a tender, then be signed off by the National Commissioner, which before it wasn't like that. And in terms of the irregular expenditure, there are four items or contracts that place us much more on the bad side in terms of irregular expenditure. One, unfortunately, we are disclosing them, but they have not necessarily happened now, some of them, but they paint us bad, of course. The first one happened in 2018. It's a CETA subs related one, is about 636 plus million. The second one happened in 2019, is telecom related and subs, telecom building IT there, 487 plus million. And the health risk manager, not the current one, the previous one, 430 plus million. So yes, we did get value out of that. Not that we lost money, we did get value. However, we, as I said, they happened long ago, but they have been investigated, we are disclosing them now. Hence, you see our irregular expenditure have shot up. Of course, there is also one of RT67, and that is related to repairs of vehicles and tires and tubes, which also, that one is for now. So the other three, they are quite old, but they've been disclosed now. So they will paint the current leadership that is here in that bad light. We are not just leaving this irregular expenditure as is. Myself and the CFO and the management, we have put measures in place. We have introduced now what is called audit, that once the BEC, which you also changed, not the same one, and the BAC, which you also are restructuring now, they will work on contracts. But just before they allocate a contract to honorable gunners, they will park there. Then comes a team of our own internal audit. They go through the work and see whether whoever have anything to do, have they done the proper work. And once they find it's okay, then they'll give them the nod to say, okay, they can proceed. We did encounter quite a little bit of problems in that, because some school of thought were saying now we are making the auditors part of procurement process, but we said no, but if it will work for us, let it be, because that's the only way we think it will work for us. So we have introduced that. We've reviewed the bid evaluation committees, and we also going to involve a lot of specialists like your CSIR people in terms of as we get to specifications, because one of the things is our police officials will have a problem with specification in terms of those technological language and other languages, specialist languages. So we're now going to at least have one or two people that are specialists that can assist us and guide us in a lot of areas. But the General Fani will talk more on that, and the CFO. Well, I spoke about the irregular expenditure. The post of the chief audit executive, that's not filled in 24 months. Maybe it's just wherever it's written is a typo error, Honorable Shikling. It's not 24 months. It was vacant since April, 1st of April last year. It's 18 months. However, I agree it's too long. But we have done the reprocessing, and it will be filled before the end of this financial year, definitely. The panels are approved, everything will be on the go. General Fani will respond on the matter of blacklisting of suppliers. With the current health risk manager contract that we cancelled, of course, when you cancel something, you go through a lot of legalities to make sure that you are quite correct. Because I know some says no, why we took so long before we cancel? We have to do a lot of thorough job before we can do that with the legal services. which eventually we cancel it. So in terms of consequence management, we are going to apply it, but however what we advised one another in this case is that let's finalize the forensic audit. We did, that what you saw is preliminary audit, but currently there is a forensic audit that we expect that it will be finalized within now November, December. Once that is finalized, then we will then be able to take action. In the past, I think it's one of the contracts also in supply chain, I don't know whether it's the marking or what, where action was taken against certain people. Then later, currently now as we speak, there's a lot of people that have got that they're fighting their case, which they say, no, but you see, here I wasn't too wrong. If somebody didn't give me wrong things, I wouldn't have gone wrong. And we dealt with this one, we didn't deal with that one. So we don't want to go into that conundrum again, where we might find ourselves having dealt with people and then they challenge the sanction because of we didn't do the whole complete chain of the whole procurement. So hence the forensic audit that is being done now. The scanner, yes. In some of our forums, Honorable James, there was especially there was a committee called Border Coordinating Committee. There was decisions taken that departments shouldn't buy scanners, especially for border, because we give that to the SARS custom. They be the one that buy. Like the scanner that is in Durban, the one for trucks, the huge one. It's not SARS scanner, it belongs to the SARS. Yes, SARS had one scanner in Durban, a small one, yes, which is now no more serviceable. So now the BMA also is there, so it is those two departments that will be responsible for buying scanners for that. But however, internally we said division, this pole must buy scanners, mobile one with vents, for usage for roadblock purposes. They are busy with that procurement. I'm sure they will finalize before the end of this financial year. Where Karamani is monies that come from proceeds of crime, which Minister, they do have a ministerial committee, there's a DG's committee, and the decision there is that the money is used more for organized crime. And yeah, preparing a police station might be something else than organized crime, of course. The convictions on Shanela will have to go back, work on that, we'll come back. The lockdown 3 in the Cape Flats, yes, it is still on now, but we have added personnel from around the province of Western Cape into this operation with extra overtime now and then, which we think that will boost a long way to go. We have 185 police stations in the country. Some of them are fixed buildings, some of them are borrowed buildings, but the details of how many are rented, I wouldn't have the details now. We can go back and work on that supply chain, work on the whole 185, and we will come and give. But of course, a satellite police station's purpose is not to remain satellite forever. It's a stopway halfway towards a police station. Yeah, I think I will ask my colleagues to talk more on some of the matters. Let me start with, I'll start with technology, General Mavundla, followed by the CFO, General Fani, Sintumule Musigiri, and General Zulu. General Mavundla from technology side.
Good afternoon to the chairperson, the honorable members, and the minister, deputy ministers, the national commissioner, deputy national commissioner, and all colleagues. General, the question that came was the modernization within the organization, especially at the new police stations. We do have a strategy in the organization that we call ISICT strategy, which is information systems and information and communication technology. So within that strategy, we have 4 pillars. And those 4 pillars are the ones that are driving us in looking at what would be the strategy to modernize the organization. Having said that, we do modernize as we go. We start with the infrastructure at most times. The infrastructure in the organization is dilapidated. I'm talking to the infrastructure that is network infrastructure. If we look at the rural areas haven't got infrastructure that is enough, because even the telco or telecommunication companies, they don't go there. They go where there's business, which you find that we are able to upgrade data lines within the urban areas because the data, the telecommunication is also there. So in the rural areas is where we are struggling at the moment. But if I would speak to the main pillars of technology modernization in the organization, we looked at the reinventing of the client service center, where we say this is where it starts, what technologies should be at the client service center. And then the other pillar that we look at is the investigation and the detective, which is more of a crime scene, where we want to ensure that modernization of the evidence collection and the crime investigation is also done. And then the next pillar is where we look at the intelligence, where we are looking at lead policing, crime prevention and combating, where we are using the data and the analysis to improve crime fighting. And then the last pillar, as I said, there's 4, is using all the other technologies that are mobile, which will be the body-worn cameras, which will be the unmanned surveillance, which will be CCTVs. In that, you will find bits and pieces where we have started doing such, where there are surveillance cameras that we are implementing around the KZN environment, where we look at which of the environments that have the highest crime that is not mendable with the resources or human resources that we have. It does go slow, although I'm making that example, it does go slow because of the budget constraints that we have in the organization. But there is definitely a roadmap of the ICT environment, which is supporting the strategy of the organization, as indicated what are the pillars that are arriving to such. Where we are talking to the cybercrime issues, cybercrime, it falls under the intelligence-led, where we are using the data and the analysis to improve crime fighting. We do have contracts where we are buying some of the equipment that is relevant for cybercrime and extraction of the information from any of the technologies that would have been used within that particular crime. As it has been heard, how we are sourcing that particular information from any other. Within that space, we also have the systems or applications that are used within the labs, within all the other areas. So those pillars are the pillars that are driving us to be able to support the policing within the organization. It would not be easy without the infrastructure that is constantly maintained and constantly upgraded and constantly put into the newest technologies of infrastructure, network infrastructure within the country of overall. Because those new technologies that are coming in, they're coming in with a with a need that they must be plugged into the infrastructure that would work with such. So we are also improving within our hosting space so that we look at the hosting that is relevant for the today's technology, which we normally call the cloud. So that's where we are. But we are in the process of modernizing the organization. Within all the other core collaborations that we have within the MOUs, we also had chosen 5 stations where we would collaborate with the Business Against Crime or any other that is involved in such, that we look at what would work better within a specific police station. So we started with the assessment of the police stations. There are 5, which we are going to set an example with in looking at how should those police stations that are mostly receiving more crime should look like. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, the CFO, General Impact.
Thank you, Chairperson and honorable members. I will touch on, I think there was a question on donor funding. This is in relation to CARA. It is disclosed on the financial statements, in particular on the statement of financial performance under aid assistance. So that is the only amount that we have received. We do not have any other donations in this regard. So in terms of the template, you will then disclose that under aid assistance, and you will see that on note number 3 in terms of the analysis in this regard. So we received an amount over to 1 billion that we utilized for the process of organized crime. There were operations that were funded from there. We procured capital assets in that particular regard. So you will see the details on note 3 on the financial statements. In terms of irregular expenditure, the supply chain management will get into the details. For the 24-25 financial year, there was 466 million that was disclosed there. There were 3 transactions that were high value that were disclosed there. There was a health risk management contract that has been discussed all over. It is disclosed there. When we picked up that particular contract, sometime in January, all relevant investigations and determination tests were done, and audits were done, and relevant disclosures were done in relation to this health risk manager contract. So we have that is disclosed. There was an issue on non-compliance on a contract that dealt with the Tafelsag police station at around 48 million. It is disclosed there. And the biggest amount that is disclosed there is in relation to irregular expenditure that relates to the RT69 contract. That is a contract that talks to the issues of the tires. It is a transversal contract. There were issues there. We conducted a determination test, and it was disclosed in there. On the annual report, there are 2 parts. There is part E as well as part F. Part E speaks to the issues of compliance. I think AGSA touched more on that. In that particular part on the annual report, it talks to the issues that troubles us in terms of non-compliance to PFMA in relation to irregular expenditure. When we took over in 2019, other committee members who were here will recall that the department was struggling with a qualification audit opinion. So we set out a plan to clean up that particular qualification audit opinion. We had to go back 4 years to clean up and determine whether those transactions were not irregular. So we cleaned up and we corrected the opening balance in terms of our financial statements. Most of the transactions were lying there. You have those old transactions that we then had to disclose in our effort to correct the opening balance. And we corrected, and subsequently we dealt with our financial statements, and we were able to get out of the qualification area. And we have since sustained that for the past 5 years, including the year under review. Now you sit with those transactions that are sitting there, and we are dealing with them together with National Treasury. We have contacted National Treasury and requested them to assist us to deal with these transactions that are lying on Part E as a project. They have condoned an amount of 430 million up to so far. We are in the process of submitting others so that they can assist us to deal with such condonement so that we can remove this from our register in this particular regard. There's also a delegation that the accounting officer has done so that then we are able to can deal with this, especially where it was determined that there was no loss, there was no corruption and there was no fraud, so that then we can follow the National Treasury framework in terms of cleaning up our books. So we are in progress, they are cooperating, we are working together with National Treasury, and we believe that at the end of 25-26, that particular irregular expenditure register would have been cleaned up in terms of the amounts that we find ourselves having to put them under Part E on the annual report in this regard. There is 52 million that is still under assessment. We are making progress in terms of finalizing the investigations and the entire value chain to assist us to then submit for necessary approval or condonation in this particular regard. So the 2.4 billion was not incurred in the under review. Under review on the financial statements is 466. The rest of the data you will see on Part E that we are currently dealing with, working together with National Treasury and the relevant condoning authorities to ensure that we then clean up our irregular expenditure register and we begin to then down manage those particular issues. There's quite a number of actions that supply chain will touch on in terms of what is it that we are doing to deal with these transgressions. There are awarenesses as well as trainings that are taking place countrywide in terms of issues of quotations as well as the reconfiguration of these committees that the National Commissioner spoke about in this particular regard. So I thought I will just clarify the two disclosures in this regard. Thank you, National Commissioner. General Fanny will then touch on the steps and actions that are taking place. Where it is found that there was fraud, cases are opened. Where it is found that people are found to be wanting, steps will be taken. There are those that investigating officers are still investigating. The RT69, we are awaiting a final report from the IO. As soon as it is finalized and there are recommendations, those recommendations will be implemented without any fear or favor. The forensic investigations surrounding the health risk manager, should people be found to be wanting, those steps will be implemented without any fear or favor, and we believe that that investigation will soon be concluded. We followed the forensic investigation route because we did not want to then not hold everybody who is responsible for this into consideration. So that report, we are waiting it. It should be concluded very soon so that then the necessary disciplinary action as well as holding the relevant people to account, that will then unfold by the time we come back to the committee. That will be done. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Chairperson. The next will be General Fanny.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon. We quite a number of questions that were not answered by the National Commission. I'll go through them. The issue of Ngwelezane, we have already activated a procurement instruction to Public Works with regards to Ngwelezane, and we have already had communication with them. It is a non-devolved function, so they would have to assist us with the demolition and construction in that space, but it is in the plan for construction. I think the committee is quite conversant at this current moment with regards to what powers are devolved to us and what are not devolved to us. The prioritization of the construction of police stations typically happens there's visible policing, and the provinces would have a conversation around what is a priority in the provinces. It links to a number of indicators that are prevailing in the province at the time, and once they have concluded on what is to be prioritized, then we put it on our IDP, and then we plan for it accordingly for a new construction. The question was asked in terms of, have we sent the request for blacklisting of suppliers at National Treasury? Yes, we have. All the suppliers that are not conforming in accordance to the deliverables in the contract, we do have conversations at BAC. We sent the documentation to National Treasury for restriction. Let me use the correct answer, for restriction of those suppliers at National Treasury. If at any given time there are suppliers that have found wanting in the procurement process, we also do flag them for restriction with National Treasury. There are instances, however, where there is irregular expenditure and it is not at the fault of the supplier. We cannot hold the supplier responsible for that administrative error, so we would not invoke restriction in that regards. We will then, the determination test will reveal whether the supplier was found wanting or not. And if not, we do not invoke issues of restriction with National Treasury. But we embark on the consequence management internally in the organization for the officials that have led the contract into irregularity. Why do we allow contracts to expire? The maintenance contracts, we normally should not allow them to expire. But the operational environments know better in terms of what is critical and what is not critical. In instances where the contracts are to expire and we can invoke other procurement modalities other than a tender process, for an example where we can issue a quotation for as and when the maintenance is required, we do embark on that process. Typically for machineries that are still in good condition, that are still new, we would not overkill with the tender process but use quotation process. We do experience some challenges there. However, the most favorable position would be to ensure that there's contracts all the time, and we are working on making sure that those happen. The question was asked, how many cars do we have running on the road? We have about 43,400 fleet, more about. In our books, we have been in the position to improve the availability of this fleet to about 85%, meaning that we still have 15% breakdown on our fleet within subs, meaning that at any given time we've got 15% of our fleet that's not running. It could happen that in one police station, if there is no proper control, there are quite a lot of police fleets that are not running at any given time. But we have gone through to the provinces and assisted them in making sure that the fleet availability is improved from that. The garages are at the provinces, and the provinces are responsible for the maintenance of fleet. We do assist them. The issue of scrapping of cars, the fact that we are having limited financial resources to replenish new cars, we tend not to retire most of our fleet too quickly. If we can hold on to what we have for an extended period of time, we do that. But we have given the garages and the provinces a discretion to indicate at any given time if it is becoming unbearable to run those fleet, so that we can flag them for boarding. The boarding policy clearly indicates that if we have exceeded the value of the car, you should flag it for disposal. But with the limited resources we've got, it becomes a virtually very difficult task. We need to hold on to what we've got. A question was asked in terms of what are the things that we're doing to make sure that the irregular expenditure does not escalate to the level where it is now. We have taken note of the presentation from AGSA. I think on page 5 of the AGSA presentation, they have indicated that we have implemented adequate controls and these actions are ongoing. However, we do have instances where indeed our bid evaluation processes are failing us quite drastically. And that's where we really need to have this concerted effort. We've had a three-day session within supply chain management to try and find out exactly and pinpoint some of these areas where we are experiencing problems. And indeed, it's at bid evaluation committees. The bid evaluation committee is not a standing committee. The members of the bid evaluation committees get appointed on a project basis. Now, some of those people, either they have criminal intentions or it's just purely an issue of competency. And we have picked up, when I had a number of discussions with them, that there are issues predominantly of competency with regards to the bid evaluation committees. They are police persons. They are not technocrats. A huge chunk of them have not been trained on bid processes, and therefore that's the risk that we've got. Chair, I have to report that we've got quite a young procurement policy that we have that has just been put in place. That policy was put through a rigorous evaluation. We've had internal processes to review that, to make sure that that policy does put together the governance and controls that was passed. We have also actually given it to AGSA to look at, and they have not found any gaps in that policy. We then, if you look at the 4 areas of procurement, the policy, the systems, technology, as well as the structure, we have to work on technology and the structure. If the policy works and the systems are working, the people and the technology needs to be implemented. We are using a paperless system. A paperless system is prone to issues. And we were banking on IFMS to come to fruition. It's not coming to fruition. We then have to invoke our own exemption processes to be exempted from IFMS so that we can procure a system so that we deal away with the issues of paperwork system. The issue of dropping of tenders on a paper system and then anything can happen to those papers. We really have to get rid of that. General Mavundla has already been activated in that regard, so we are banking on her to assist us with regards to that. Chair, we are also, we have spoken with HR. There are key positions that we have not filled in procurement, critical positions. The component head has not been filled in the last 3 years. And we also have had to expedite that process and make sure that we have that position filled. It's critical. It will allow me an opportunity as the head of the division to do other things other than looking at procurement functions. We are expediting the issues of consequence management. The determination tests, we are at about more than 90% of the determination tests done on all the irregular expenditure contracts or tenders that we have within the subs. The consequence management has to be expedited. We are working with human resource management with regards to that, expediting that process. We also had challenges with regards to how do we then, after a year or 2 or 3, look at issues of value for money when the rent value has deteriorated or has moved in a way that it has. We have had conversations with National Treasury to be able to justify those issues of the value for money. We are hoping that when we do meet with them, General Stole is standing in for me. I'm away for 3 months out of office on work assignment. So she will expedite in making sure that the condonation of those contracts happen expeditiously. We have touched on issues of who sits in the committees. The bid specification committees are ad hoc. Each environment that is affected by the contract or the tender, we do assemble them by nomination of the divisional commissioners in those environments. As I've indicated, we are looking at, I think the divisional commissioners are looking at the person that could have the most knowledge with regards to the need or the service or the goods that are to be procured. But that does not necessarily mean that they're conversant with the procurement process, and that's where the challenge is. The same happens with the bid evaluation committees. It's not a standing committee. It is assembled for a specific commodity. The bid adjudication committee is the only standing committee. The National Commissioner has had a look at whether to give all the powers to the chairperson of the committee. The committee sits and adjudicates, and they make a recommendation for the award to a supplier. The chairperson of the committee is delegated the functions to sign the contract. The chairperson of the adjudication committee does not adjudicate all by himself. He is only signing the appointment of the contractor. The bid adjudication committee sits and collectively agree on the adjudication of a tender. But we are going to be looking at the thresholds in terms of that, to allocate them a certain threshold, and some of it will go to the next level of authority. That will then mean that the adjudication committee will recommend to the next level, and the next level will then do the final adjudication with regards to the allocation of tenders. But there are other administrative things that we are doing, and I would not go through those. Those are the things that we are looking at and making sure that our paperwork trailing, the issues of checklists that are signed off, and also strengthening the sign-offs from various environments within the division with clear explanations of why they are signing and whether they have made themselves conversant with the tender that they have reviewed, that they are recommending to the bid adjudication committee. Chair, I will stop at that. Thank you very much.
General Sintumule.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Good afternoon to you and to the honorable members, Minister and Deputy Minister of Police, National Commissioner and Head of Entities. Chairperson, I'll start with the issue of coordination between detectives and the DPCI. We are different segments of the same crime detection business value chain, and therefore we work hand in glove. And to just articulate or give examples of how we work together with the DPCI, I will use first the SAP's operational approach on CITs. The DPCI has proclaimed the CIT as a priority for the DPCI, so they carry the CIT docket, and as the detective in supporting them, we carry the CIT related docket. That could be possession of unlicensed firearm or stolen vehicles. Those will be in support of their investigations in addressing the target or the suspect. And secondly, also they have got the capacity for financial investigations, specifically for preservation orders or asset forfeiture. Within the detective, this skill is not there, so therefore we require DPCI to assist us in this regard, and I think they have done so successfully. But again, emanating from the Western Cape, Cape Metropole gang stations, they are also assisting us to build capacity of financial investigations within the detectives. And lastly, on the examples, we also are coordinating on cybercrime. We actually carry the function through the NASCOM of the designated point of contact. That is Cybercrime Center within SAPS, and therefore they do the investigation. So we coordinate also in that regard.
The next one, Chairperson talks to Honorable James questions on the 20 million cocaine bust that took place in Midrand 5 days ago. I think her question was whether the exhibits have reached forensic services. I must say, as part of our protocols, the drugs, as part of the exhibits, were sent to forensic for investigations and also analysis. I must add that an arrest was made in this regard. A 58-year-old male was arrested. The investigation led by crime intelligence continues, therefore I won't divulge much on this one. I have got two requests, Honorable Chair, in relation to Honorable Shikaling's questions. One talks to the cases withdrawn emanating from our unscanned docket at the station level. We request that we provide this answer in writing, as it requires for us to go and scan the system and be able to provide a proper and articulate as well as reliable response to the honorable member. And I think the second one is also on how many cases were withdrawn from Shanela arrests. And I think also that question we will respond to in writing after we have done our analysis on the system. Chair, before I step down, I also want to highlight that we have noted concerns as a division or a directorate in relation to the performance of Forensic Science Laboratory. Of the entire program, I think General Rabi, when he was presenting, you'll see that our performance has improved by 44%, which means from the detectives, crime, CR and CSM, or criminal records and crime scene management, there's been improvement, but forensic remains stubborn in terms of improvement. However, that does not mean that there's not work done. If I may just give an example in terms of what has been achieved, I think the National Commissioner also spoke about the increase in the workload in that environment, which also means that our resources are strained, but also the infrastructure. In the financial year 21-22, we had a total of 536,350,000 cases registered, and you can see the increase in this financial year. Currently, we are standing at 781,810 cases. So, which means there's been an exponential increase. However, the resources have remained the same. The lab capacity, or actually the lab footprint, has remained as the 3, with now the possible addition of KwaZulu-Natal. So, what we did was to commission internal audit to conduct a business continuity investigation for us to see how do we actually get out of this conundrum that we find ourselves in. We got the report on Friday, but I must highlight that this report basically resonates with the audit findings. For example, they've outlined 4 strategies for us to be able to turn the environment around. That's the issue of capacitation. NATCOM spoke about giving numbers, but that is not the only thing. Again, the issue of old equipment that needs to be replaced, but also expanding the size, or actually the FSL footprints to national, to be able to accommodate the increasing crime levels as well as your increasing exhibits to the lab. But again, importantly, migrating from manual functioning to automated functioning. That also talks to the TMS, IS and ICT strategy. So in a way, we are trying to say, Chair, we are going to study this report. Emanating from this report, we'll then come up with a forensic science laboratory recovery plan with a budget in terms of what is required really to get this environment out of its performance challenges. General Mulauzi will talk more about the issue of the contracts. As General Fani had said, that most of these actually are a contention within each environment. If General, with your permission, General Mulauzi can come through on the issue of contracts. Thank you, General.
Thank you very much, Chair, Honorable Chair, honorable members, greeting to the executive. The 3 contracts that were indicated by AGSA, yes, they expired. We used those contracts for the robotic systems that actually we are also trying to replace. But before they expired, we put a specification together, but we didn't have a responsive bid. Those people who are supplying us with the equipment, they didn't bid at all. But we end up actually approaching them on quotation basis, which actually they gave us quotation, which we asked that actually we should be, this quotation should allow us to have maintenance contract of these systems until next day, June, which we apply for deviation through supply chain and is approved. So at the present moment, we don't have any challenge, Chair, with the equipment. We are maintaining our equipment, but also we're putting the RFI because our equipment, they're close to the end of their book life. So we need to replace them with the new technology. So that process is already at supply chain, and we are anticipating that we'll have an award anytime soon. Thank you very much.
General Msikip.
Thank you, Chairperson, and good afternoon to yourself. Good afternoon to honorable members, the Minister, and Deputy Minister and the National Commissioner, all protocol observed. Chair, the first response that I will love to provide is the question from Honorable Skosana on the strategy to use communities in a fight against crime at the stations and the assistance with exclusion of the Community Policing Forum, to indicate that over and above the CPF, we do have other projects that we are undertaking with the communities. For an example, we work with the E2 project, that we work with the private security companies, and we see the deployments are done by the police in this regard. We also have projects such as rural safety, where we work with the rural communities. We also have projects of school safety forums, to mention the few, the partnership policing. From time to time, we do get requests of formations and existing organizations that we want to work with the police. And before we do so, Chair, we do check the credibility of this particular organization that want to work with us. What will be the intention? If there is none, then we will partner and work with them. We also work with traditional policing that was rolled out. We do from time to time get approach from civil society groups. Chairperson, I think here in the Western Cape, we're approached twice, including the acting Minister of Police was also approached by some of these civil society groups to request to work with the police. And there was a directive yesterday when we were at Reiger Park that we will go back. I think previously we did have several meetings with community leaders trying to understand, as the honorable member indicate, that we also look at what is it that communities are bringing that want to see from the police. How do they want to be policed? So we also look into such. The other issue that was raised, it's in regards to the implementation of the recommendations. I think the question was very specific, Honorable Shikeleng, that why was there no implementation for 5 years? What we have done as a department is to look at the post-audit action plan and to monitor such. When we realize that there is no much improvement that is coming, the directive was also given by the department to both the divisional commissioners of visible policing and operations, as well as the detectives, to assist in the monitoring of the stations on the PAP, and to make sure that there is a level of accountability, especially on the issues that are stubborn to be rectified. What I also did with some of the colleagues, the divisional commissioner as well as the acting deputy national commissioner support, was to from time to time visit the stations. We are not realizing this because of some other volume of work, but the intention was to have consistent meetings with all the police stations per province on the issues that have been identified. I must say, Chairperson, we are not proud that for 5 years there are those material irregularities that are still realized on performance information, and we are doing everything to our power to also hold the provincial commissioners accountable. And during the BOC, this is a matter that is put on the discussion points. The other question from Honorable Shikeleng was in relation to how many of the 38 aircrafts are available at any given time. We can report that 12 will be available at any given point, and there are various reasons why some will not be available, such as hours and the availability of pilots depending on the different types. Of the 12, 9 are in different provinces. They are operating directly from the provinces, and this will include your choppers and porters. If I can give specific account of these aircrafts that are at the provincial level, Chair, particularly relating to the choppers that must assist in KZN. We do have a chopper that is mainly working within the rural areas in Emanguzi. It's assisting there from time to time. Eastern Cape, we have 2, and they were allocated with a new one this year. We have 2 in Free State. We have 1 chopper in Gauteng and 2 porters. And Gauteng, because of its proximity to the national unit, they are also from time to time get assistance from a national office if there is a chopper that is available. We also have a porter in the Northern Cape, but Northern Cape is also assisted from time to time. They alternate between themselves and Free State if there is such need to avail an aircraft. Other provinces, such as Northwest, which is closer to head office, Limpopo's one, it's grounded, Chair, and when it is available, it will be allocated back to the province. So all these aircrafts, they are allocated to provinces, but the availability depends on the hours that they have. Some it's because of the service. Aircrafts take quite some time when they go for services. The other question that I want to reflect on, it's the statistics insofar as lockdown 3 is concerned. Chair, to provide the statistics that will be on, not from the start of lockdown 3, because we have had lockdown 1, we had lockdown 2, and we are currently on lockdown 3. And on all these particular interventions, we send supplementary teams from head office. So it depends on the availability of the budget as well, on the numbers that we are sending. But in the Western Cape, we have been intervening for quite some time. And from April of this year, we have realized 2,296 arrests on drugs. We have arrested 96 persons for gang-related murders. We have also arrested 60 persons for gang-related attempted murders. In relation to the seizures, we have 1,565 firearms that have been seized from the communities, with a total of 39,371 rounds of ammunition of various types. So the follow-up question was, how long will lockdown 3 be? How long are we going to continue with this? I must say we have presented to the Minister of Police and the JCPS counterparts on our intervention in the Cape Flats, and the directive after we have presented that plan that I've already alluded to the fact that Minister was also approached by civil society groups who presented their strategy as well. What is it that they think we can collaboratively do we have presented that plan to the JCPS ministers. The National Commissioner alluded to the fact that CARA funding, it's the money that is earmarked for this year. It was communicated that it will look at organized crime. So we have submitted a request to have CARA funding so that we can continue with our deployments. The initial plan of the deployments, General Sintumule also alluded to, this plan was for 3 months, but I think with the approval that was communicated last week is that we were looking at least to have a 1 year. But then we're looking at sustainability of these operations to look at what the province is having and assisting them with the overtimes when they do a collapse. For Western Cape, Chairperson, over and above the specialized units that they do have the National Intervention Unit, they do have POP, I think they have 6 units of POP in the province. So we are encouraging the call up so that we don't have to spend more money on accommodation, because when we do these interventions, we get people from other stations, other provinces to come and assist. And at this point in time, we have various number of intervention operations that are running. I still have intervention in KZN in Emanguzi over and above the PKTT. We still do have intervention at Richards Bay that it's been extended with a month again now to look at some of the cases and investigations in that regard. We do have interventions in Gauteng, in Jukulane, that is Cyclone, Operation Cyclone, that we are also assisting the province in mitigating the challenges there to stabilize that area. We still continue with scaling down on Valumkoti, but the monies that we will get, we assist the provinces. The CFO have allocated that provinces need to have their own illegal mining operations so that we don't spend on accommodation, but rather to spend money in the provinces in regards to overtime and other needs. So these are over and above interventions that we are having across the country to augment the provincial capacity and for them to be able to respond. And where necessary, there will be from time to time evaluation of the stations and provinces. Chairperson will recall that we have top 30, which in this financial year we have increased the 30 to 35 because we have realized that there are stations that are fluctuating between 30 and within the high 35 high crime stations. So we are monitoring those 35 police stations from time to time. And I think it goes again with the issue of what are we doing to assist the police stations and how do we monitor them. When the posts are allocated, the DNC support services and HRM will look first at these top 35 high crime contact stations in allocating the post, and we will make sure that we allocate adequately. I think throughout this morning we had even from the labor unions the attritions that we are having in the department where people are leaving the service. So much as we want to capacitate the stations, but we also lose members, and that it makes the numbers to continuously fluctuate. National Commissioner responded on the number of satellites. I think that will be all from my side, Chair, but to conclude on the issues of the budget, I think Honorable trying to check on my notes. Yeah, on the issues of the budget, that what are we doing when the budget is this much? What I want to clarify, Chair, on the issues of the budget that is allocated to visible policing is that 40 billion of this budget goes to the police station. It's between the compensation budget It will also include the leases, the municipal fees of all police buildings, not only where, because police buildings you will have a visible policing or uniform policing. So all the buildings, leases, the municipal services and the maintenance, it's within that budget. This also includes all the uniform specialized units, air wing, special forces that we are having in the police, the public order policing, the TRTs, the detainees meals. That budget includes that as well. It also includes your dock units, your railway police, your 10111 centers. So when we talk about the 53% of SAP's budget, it's because it includes police station, it includes it. I think visible policing is one of the biggest directorate within the policing. All uniform policing is within the visible policing. That is where that budget is, including these interventions that I was talking, national interventions share that I was talking about, that there is money that is allocated. It sits at visible policing. So it doesn't matter who is getting deployed. If we do national interventions, as I was talking about the investigations now, that money sits within the visible policing space, and it is managed there. Chairperson, I think let me pause there, and let me also apologize for the noise that came. It is the alarm at the house. I can't do otherwise. It can't be silenced, unfortunately, because it is meant to alert if there is anything. So the message that I will get will depend on what is it, whether it's a blockage, whether it's a cut off of the alarm. If it happens again, Chairperson, I would like to apologize in advance. Thank you.
Thank you, General.
Thanks, Chair. General Zulu, on detective skills.
Thank you, General, and thank you to the Chairperson, and good afternoon. I'll be responding on the issues related to the detective training. I want to just to reflect in terms of the period from 1 April 2023 to 3 September 2025. In this period, we've already trained 2,772 detectives on the resolving of crime learning program, and then this learning program, it's where all the detectives, they have to undergo this particular training. So out of those that attended the training, which is 2,772, we have 2,705 that made it, that were found competent. The others were not found competent. And then we also alluded in this training that we have indicated, which is 2,772, it excludes the specialized training, which we're also providing to the detectives, because there is an in-service training that they still have to undergo in terms of dealing with their specialized unit. So this figure excludes that type of detectives, that detective-related training. And also it includes the basic crime investigation course, which we provide to any new recruited detectives before you go to the resolving of crime, which is a major skills program for detectives. We have to go to this one. So this 2,772 excludes those figures that I'm alluding to. So, and maybe Chairperson, I also want to maybe to respond on the issue of the academies, especially when it comes to the infrastructure. This is a problem. I think it is Honorable Member asked about this malfunctioning of the geyser and the electrical faults. This is a problem that we are currently having based on the aging infrastructure that we are having. And there's a lot of dependency from Department of Public Works and Infrastructure. As South African Police Service, we've got a certain scope that we can do within the SAPS through our day-to-day maintenance. But there is a scope that we cannot touch. Most of the scope is those aging malfunctional geysers as well as the electrical faults. So we'll depend for Department of Public Works to appoint a supplier. So where there's a problem, we have to ask to say, we can't continue. Can we then do it ourselves? They will give us the permission. Then after they've given SAPS this permission, is then we're going to utilize our budget then to buy a new geyser and get a supplier to do that. So that is what is delaying sometimes in terms of what we were experiencing on the issues of the infrastructure when it comes to cold water as well as the electoral faults. And also want also to allude in terms of the quality of food. We note the problem that was there was a shift that was introduced, which I think the honorable member spoke about the quality of food in the Roteplat. So after we detect that problem, we had to ask another academy, which has got chefs, to go and give the training and on-the-job training and mentor those new chefs that were of that shift. So after that, we received the feedback from the learners that the food has improved. And also, we encouraged the learners. We've got a complaint register and the suggestion books, which they can report anytime and so that anyone who visiting the academy, be the commander, monitoring and evaluation, they are able to check and address the problem there and there. So we have encouraged them to report on those channels, but also we cautioned the commander as well as the support services and the mess commander, because some of the challenges, especially for the 4 members that did not receive the food, it was other learners taking more portions than they were supposed to. So those that were on the patrol, during the training on patrol, they did not get enough food. So that was the reason. But after we learned that from the chairperson in that meeting, we immediately attended to this, and we also cautioned. We had a meeting with the commander in terms of compliance, because it's part of what they're supposed to do. And on the issue of the halal, the academy was buying the food. According to the learner, he said it does not trust that supplier in terms of compliance with this with the halal standard. So ever since then, we agreed with the learner. We are giving the money to the learner so that he can be able to buy to the supplier that he believes that is the right one in terms of compliance with the halal. I just wanted to, to raise these issues also as part of what we're trying to solve the problems of infrastructure and the food problems. Thank you so much, Chairperson.
Thank you, General.
Thanks, Chairperson. With regard to the filling of posts, we are currently in the process of filling quite a number of posts. There's quite a number of senior posts that are vacant, but also junior posts that we are filling through a promotion process. And just to reiterate, in terms of consequence management, I do have sessions with provincial commissioners, and I'm not done. I'm still busy with that, but I've seen some progress, especially in Gauteng, where they are taking actions for audit findings where commanders fail to do certain things. Thank you very much.